Here we go. Here we go. Here. Wait, no,
Wow.
here we go again. I don't. So music coming to my brain today is also a struggle. John and I were talking just before the show, and we did start the show already once, but we had some technical issues, so we are starting again. However, I was saying to John before the show that I'm having a difficult time today getting words out. They're a struggle for me today. Mainly big words that because I want to sound smart. I know that's a big stretch for me any given day, but I try to sound smart whenever I can. So I was struggling with words, but John is also supposedly struggling with words along with technology.
Oh, you're killing me, man. I'm not struggling with tech. Yeah,
I'm
my
killing you,
phone is
Smo.
struggling with tech. Well, my phone is awesome. It's this crap behind me that's in the new house trying to get a Wi-Fi hookup is just crazy. And so, yeah, that's what I'm dealing with, sadly.
Well, and the last episode that we did, you actually didn't have your microphone out, and so it was you could tell that it was using the microphone from the computer, which, that's not ideal, but we've both done it. It sounds fine. I mean, it works. But the funny thing is you had everything set up this time. You had your headphones, you had your microphone, everything was good to go with the exception of the background. We're so sorry, Lisa. He will fix it soon, I promise. But you had everything set up and ready to go, and then we were recording, and we were recording for I mean, we were talking, and we were talking for a good 20 minutes about things, and everything was fine. We're like, okay, maybe this will be good. And then as soon as we hit record, it was ah, mm, every 10th word possibly. So and John was talking about my dad, he was talking about Matt Pitzner, and all I heard was quite literally dad, 6-degree black belt, Pitts. That's it. That's all I heard the whole time, and it was a 5-minute conversation.
You pretty much deciphered everything I was saying. And it was,
Well,
it
I
was,
I'm pretty good at that.
let's go back to that because I want to talk about your dad. And your dad is how old?
74 years young.
Crap. Okay, your dad's 74. And and Matt is 50, Matt Pitzer, and both of those guys have re-engaged in martial arts. Your dad, after a knee replacement, what, a couple years ago, you said,
Yep. Yep.
and got his titanium because now it's a weapon. It's sort of like nunchaku, which is great.
Yeah.
But he and so talk about that because truly it's a big deal, Nick. And your dad at his age, or at any age, frankly, is a sixth Dan and in kung fu, and that's dude, that's huge. Talk a little bit about that.
It is huge. Well, he's been doing it for a very long time. He was doing it when I was a young kid, and actually, here I'll show you the picture he sent this weekend because he was. Yeah, I'm proud of him. He was proud of it, but he actually took the picture with my former teacher. I mean, my dad was my teacher, but Dana is his name, was his teacher, and also, a lot of times my teacher. So my dad is the one holding. He's the good looking guy that looks a lot like me, but he's the one holding the paper. Dana is the guy standing next to him in that picture. So I'll put it down there, so if you can see him.
He has a lot.
So my dad has a lot more hair than I do, yeah, but it's the same color, bright white. Uh, Say that again.
It seems to be unfair.
It does. It's very unfair, and he actually lost a little bit recently in his young age, but he's got a few more years to go, so I'm sure he'll lose more of it. No, my so he's been doing this for a very long time, and he's been promoted now to sixth level black belt. And I can never remember the name. I mean, he has several names because he actually studies multiple different martial arts, all around kung fu. But let me see. Let's what if he can 6-degree black belt last night. No, I was seeing if he put it in his text, but he didn't. But this is the Chan Fa Association.
Okay.
So I can't read. I can't read it. It's too blurry. So someone must have used an Android phone and not an iPhone to take this picture. Um,
Well, yes, because the iPhones were
Thank you.
all
Thank you very much.
busy breaking privacy regulations. Yes, I'm sure.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Well, it's funny you should say that because I was talking to a friend of ours, another Matt, today, and at the same time, I had just picked up because I was looking at my bookshelf over there, and I picked up an old photo album, and I was flipping through, and I started trying to pinch the photos because I wanted to zoom in to see what was in the background, and I'm like, damn it! How fast have we gotten used to being able to pinch and zoom?
I
It's
know,
crazy.
I know. Well, it's funny because you say that, and I think about it, and I remember, when you'd pinch, you'd get in trouble, at the bar. Uh,
Right.
but now they expect you to, and you don't really want to enlarge people at the
Yeah.
bar. You know what I'm talking about.
No, no, but you definitely wanna shrink them down, so, that's the pinching part, not the zooming part.
So if you walk up to them and pinch, you might get in trouble at the bar.
Maybe, maybe, and, we hope not, but you never know, you never know. So yeah, that was my weekend story. I'm very proud of him, and you were talking about Matt and Matt's reintroduction to martial arts. Can you tell us a
Yeah.
little bit more about that?
And this is very cool. If you are in a bar fight, you want Matt on your side, and actually either of our Matts, uh, you
Yeah.
would want
Oh,
either
yeah.
of those guys on your side in a bar fight. And it's not like you and I couldn't handle ourselves in a bar fight, but and I've probably told this before, but Matt Pitzner's go to avoid bar fights, and that's the best way to not get in a bar fight is just avoid them. He carries and has on occasion carried a mouth guard. And so if somebody challenges him, hold on just for a second, and he puts a mouth guard in, and if you are looking for a bar fight, the one guy you don't want to fight is the dude who has a mouth guard in his pocket. And so, what
That's exactly it. It's
Yeah, well, and it's funny because Matt, who's bigger than I am, about the same size as I am, is a guy who could back up any bar fight there is. So it's all fine. But he has been a martial artist for many years. Used to teach these kids, and some of these kids are just now grown up, and it's just fun to see how they just revere that sort of training. And they don't get it, it seems like, in anything else these days. And so he was really highly regarded as an instructor, as a sensei. And so for him to get back into it himself is really good. And it's funny because he started as a white belt, and here's a guy who is degree black, and it's just really funny to say, "Oh yeah, did you get your ass kicked by a white belt?" And I'm not saying he would say that, but he could. So it makes it kind of funny too.
You could
Uh,
back it up.
that was exactly what I wanted to do when I was a white belt. So anyway, it's yeah, it's really good. And interestingly, Matt and I were in the middle of a Krav Maga class together when I was diagnosed, was first experiencing the symptoms of my multiple myeloma, and so I mean, I had to skip out of most of the classes, and some of the guys that we went with, the other people that we attended with, also one guy had throat cancer, one guy had some other form of cancer. We're like, what the heck? Maybe it's
But,
the class.
we've solved it. Yeah.
I think it might have
Maybe it's
been, yeah,
the
yeah,
when you were putting the mouth guards in, were you adding lead paint?
yeah, maybe
Lead
so.
paint chips? You
That's
Yeah.
not unusual. If you're really tough, your mouth guard you paint with lead paint. That's true. I didn't even think of that.
Well, I mean, it's just to show your toughness. 1, you eat the paint chips off of the wall. 2, you're drinking out of a hose that's probably 40 years old, and, that's then you're breathing toxic black mold.
Well,
There
and
you go. That's
we
it.
used to ride in the back window of the cars without car seats. That was how we did it. So yeah,
Yep.
that you're absolutely right. That's obviously a tough man contest.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is, and it's good that Matt's getting into it. And our other Matt, Matt Smolik, he's judo, I believe, and
Yeah.
that's what he studies. But he will go to different dojos in different. So whenever he travels, he'll actually take his gi with him, and he'll
Oh,
go and work out at one of these other studios. I mean, there's a lot of dedication there, and I respect that. I never really got into it. My daughter is more like the way my dad wanted me to be than I was, because she
mm,
likes riding horses, which he was a big horseback rider. He was big dressage. I mean, he almost made the Olympic team, I believe. I could be getting that wrong because I remember that as a kid, but he was very advanced in dressage, and this kung fu, this martial arts, very advanced. My daughter loves horseback riding and wants to get into martial arts. I'm like,
let her.
sorry, Dad.
Let her.
I like golf and flying. You wanted to go do that? I'm game. At least we both like Jeeps.
Whatever. But you should encourage Peyton to do that because
Oh,
it's a
absolutely. I do.
for young ladies, and especially if she wants to. What
Right.
happens in some towns, and I know you know this, especially in some of the we call them belt factories, and they just try and rush kids through. And what happens is parents turn this stuff into a babysitting service rather than
Yes.
something that is critically important, and not just for girls but for boys. And Michael has a black belt in uh, Dojuran. I can't think of the name of it. Doesn't matter. But our son, and so he was from 7 years old on. He was highly engaged, and so yeah, we were thrilled by that. Uh, and I think I told you about the time when I gave him a free shot and to give me a front punch, and he did. And holy crap, about knocked me out for 2 weeks. I mean, it really got my
Really?
attention. Well, and then after he got his black belt, I think I was a brown belt. And what we learned is that as a brown belt, plus 100 pounds equals a black belt because I kicked his ass. So that that is a story I'll stick to. I'm not sure I kicked anything, but it was pretty funny. I said, "Yeah, obviously a black belt, 100 pounds is just a brown belt." So anyway, we laughed about it, but yeah, great thing for kids to get engaged in families and so on. And there aren't too many places you can go and beat the crap out of people and hug them when you're done.
Very true, and it also depends on the art form. So the one that I learned, the one that my dad has his black belt in, one of them, is a little bit more like, the best way I can describe it, and the only reason I know this, something I learned later in life. There's a gentleman here in Nashville who was also a student of Dana, the one that is my dad. So my dad knows him, and he's down here in
Cool.
Nashville area. He's actually in Murfreesboro, but it he also teaches. Oh shit, what is the name? I forgot now. Tai Chi.
Oh,
So the
okay.
kung fu that we learned, the one that my dad
Yeah.
knows very well, is a more of a fighting form of Tai Chi. So it's a lot of smooth motions, a lot of uh, what is it called? See, words not coming, brain turned off.
Okay.
Um, Forms, a lot of forms. So almost like choreography, if you will, to put it into a different term.
Yep.
Which is every time that I would advance to another level, then I would have to learn a specific form. Once I mastered that form, I was able to move up to another level.
And that's very constant. That's a karate thing too, where and
Yep.
that's what I was trained in, and so it's forms and weapons and sparring typically are the three
Yes.
primary things to engage in, and depending upon the weapons, it varies with the different strain that you're studying. But
Yep.
yeah, it's really fun, and those are three totally different elements. The forms are critically important. Tai Chi is much more like forms oriented,
Yep.
but you can certainly utilize those in a fighting scenario.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Everything it teaches you. It's kind of like, for those who have never done it, it's the wax on, wax off from Karate Kid. There's a reason he was learning wax on, wax off. It's the same thing. Once you start applying it to self-defense, which is the only time you should use it, then it just comes naturally.
Yeah,
I never understood that when I was taking, because that was probably why I lost interest, is I got frustrated with the fact that I wasn't really doing anything more than just these forms. I'm like, when am I going to learn to fight if I need it? And then I actually got into a couple of scraps. I wouldn't even call them fights, and I was just second nature. I mean, it
yeah,
was not me seeking it out, which is that's not my personality anyways, but it's also what they teach you. You don't seek it out, but it is there for self-defense. And it was shut down just as quick as it started because my brain and my body just took over.
yeah.
And so I think it's a fascinating thing, which is that's part of the martial arts of it. It just becomes second nature. You don't even realize what's happening. You don't have to think about it.
Absolutely right, and that is it. It does not. It's not a something that you have to, create or recreate every time. And I've asked Matt about that too, because as a fighter and an actual fighter, there are things he defaults to, and
Mhm.
that really enhances it for me because I'm not sure I default to anything, but rather react to what comes at you. When you're really fighting in a real world situation, your number one goal is to get out
Right.
of the situation, and so you can. Well, I could beat the crap out of us. That's not the point. The point is get away. If somebody's attacking you,
Yep.
gun, knife, hand, whatever, it doesn't matter. Get out. And so if you
Yeah.
strike and get out, it's great. But I saw a really good YouTube video yesterday, just out of the blue. And this guy is a great fighter, and he has videos galore of him fighting and doing great. And I'm thinking, oh, great, he's going to show this is the best way to get out of a street fight. My wife used it last week, he said, and it was when you approach someone and they're obviously stalking your vehicle, or you come out of Walmart or whatever, and they're hanging around by your car, you act like before you get there you forgot something, and you look at your watch and go, ah, and you turn around and go back into the store. That is the best non-fighting. I loved it. I saw it. I'm like, that is brilliant. And he did an entire, I don't know, 20 minutes YouTube segment on that. I thought it was brilliant.
That's hilarious. That is brilliant. That's exactly, you avoid as much as you possibly can. Have you watched, speaking of the very last episode came out yesterday, which for folks who are listening to this, today is Monday evening. So last night it came out, the season finale of 1923. Have you seen it
We
yet?
I don't know if it was the finale. I don't think so. I think we have that to watch. We watched
Okay,
one.
then I won't.
Don't spoil it.
There's a scene in there that I'm not going to, but there's a scene in there that will make sense once you see it based on this conversation, and it's one of those things where they talk about someone being an expert in this and the other person's not, but then the other person, just because he's smart and knows how to get out of a fight, he pretty much ends it right away. And
Cool.
it's fascinating because yeah, it popped into my head. I wish we could talk about it, but I don't really want to talk about it anyways, even if you had seen it, because it just came out. So many other people probably haven't watched that episode yet.
We've been watching.
I'm sorry, 1923 is probably my favorite out of the series, all of them,
I mean, I'm a
everything.
Yellowstone guy. I love the whole. I mean,
I am
Bat
too.
hilarious, and I love that. But I agree with you. 1923 is. But there are so many twists and turns to get you into it. Without
Yes.
as many episodes as Yellowstone, and you go, holy crap, what the? And so Harrison Ford is, beat to crap, and I'm not going to tell all of it. And then suddenly
Yeah.
he's less beat to crap, and you appreciate the passing of time because
Yes.
it really surprised me when I saw that.
Yeah, there's some fascinating and the I was thinking while I was watching this, I'm like, this is 1923, but it's covering like 3 years.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't think about that, but yeah, you're right. Hey, I'm sure I'm
It's
going to do some
crazy.
lighting. Look at me. Look at how awesome I am. I'm going to do some lighting. Hold on.
Wow. I see
There
black
we go.
shirt.
Hold on.
Ooh,
Pop,
oh,
pop,
oh,
pop,
it's less
pop.
black. Look. Yeah, turn it off.
Come on. Stop that.
I'm kidding. No, don't turn it off.
Serious.
I was not
Turn it
serious. Am I ever really serious?
Um, no, you're right. Okay, you're not. Except when you're working. When you're working, sometimes you're
Yeah, I pretend very, very well. I'm a good actor. I should get into acting. Oh my goodness. Well, John, that's yeah, that's about it. So we've talked about lack of words, we've talked about kung fu fighting
Yep.
and cancer based on kung fu fighting. What else we got to talk about? You did you have you're
More.
still working on the house, you have crappy internet connection.
Yeah, and I wish I could fix it, and I just can't address it because there are the companies that have it, and I'm talking about fiber. There is fiber within 5 miles. There is cable, obviously, Cat 5 within 5 miles, within 2 miles, and they won't come to this area. And if you're not familiar with Florida in the last 2 years, there are houses being built. I mean,
Yeah.
hundreds and hundreds of houses being built within a 10-mile radius of where we are. So
Well,
it's, yeah.
the biggest problem, the fastest. So we had a very similar problem when it came to liquor delivery. Big deal in my household, liquor delivery. Drizzly was just outside of our neighborhood. Like it actually even touched our neighborhood, but it didn't touch the entrance to our neighborhood, so they couldn't deliver to us. It was really, really strange. Pandemic hit. Guess who automatically started delivering to our neighborhood? So maybe
Really.
we just need another pandemic and you'll get cable or
It
you'll
sounds
get
like
internet.
they planned, so just buckle up.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. Well, I mean, unless you talk to Woody Harrelson. Did you hear about his SNL monologue?
And I, if you talk to Woody Harrelson or you watch that monologue, he was lashing out, sort of, at some of the vaccine companies.
Yeah. Oh, it was I thought I haven't watched it, but what I heard of it was hilarious. Absolutely
He
hilarious. I'm like,
down and I don't know how much is produced, and it's like watching shows on HGTV, which we love to do. The house shows,
mhm,
the whatever, and we do a lot. How much is produced or overproduced, and how much is not? And I
right.
know you have an eye for that too, especially you. Uh, and so, yeah, I wonder about that, but there's no question it was edgy enough
Yeah.
that people are going, see, I told you so. And honestly, that's come up. Some of the US government now is saying it was a lab thing, the Wuhan lab thing.
Yep.
And all the people that said,
Yep.
well, whoever says that is a terrorist or there are some sort of conspiracy theorist, and that's what. And gosh, it's really funny how that stuff starts to come true. And so when you deny
Yeah.
it, it's just ridiculous. And the same is true for things like uh, uh, when you have uh, some of the non-vaxxers who, again, were obviously assholes who didn't get vaxxed. I was with them. Um, there's talk of the how am I not getting COVID if I haven't been vaccinated. And so again, I don't want to open that bag of worms because that's what it is. But mostly it was kind of infiltrated with lies, and probably on both sides. But there was
Oh,
tell us
absolutely.
the truth. Tell us the damn
Yeah.
truth. That's all you have to do. And anybody who hides from that is obviously covering something up, and usually again,
Well,
about money.
I don't disagree, but I will throw I'll throw a little bit of a bone out there is sometimes they didn't know they were lying.
Oh, no,
Some
no,
of them.
that's a really good
The
point. But it's when anytime you follow something blindly, that's the
Yeah,
danger. So whatever,
that is
and
the danger.
if you're right,
Or
middle, it doesn't matter. If you are a
right.
CNN person or an MSNBC person or a Fox News person or whatever, if you go all in with them and only look at, and this has been something you've talked about many times, only
Mhm.
look at
Yep.
one thing, you're definitely missing out on some other element. It doesn't mean
Yeah.
that yours isn't the best of the worst, but it just becomes one of those things that we're only hearing half the story.
Right, exactly, and that's definitely the problem, and I think so. I was started listening to another Rogan podcast today, and I believe it was another Matt actually. Let me. It was Matt Tiabi.
Oh yeah, he was the guy who did
Tabi.
the, he did the outing of the Twitter files.
Yes, yes, that guy. And it was very interesting because they were obviously talking a lot about Twitter and how, Elon Musk was the hero of humanity, and he's going to revolutionize the world because of his returnable rockets and his electric cars. But then he buys Twitter and gets rid of all of the shit that surrounds it, the censorship, and now he's the evil guy who's flipped sides, and now he's the worst person ever. And it's like, it's amazing how fast people just turn just because of one little thing that they don't agree on or they don't agree with. And some
That's
of
just
these
it.
things that are coming out of Twitter are
It's
just
freedom of speech,
incredible,
unless
like
you
scary.
believe. I'm sorry. It's people who say, I believe in freedom of speech unless you don't agree with me. And that's the bogus
Right,
part. Freedom of
right.
speech is letting somebody you hate and totally disagree with say their piece.
Yeah, yep.
And you don't have to give it
Yeah,
credence.
there's
You really have to say, well, they're right and I'm wrong. But letting them speak is the crux of freedom of speech.
Yep. Well, I don't remember who exactly said this. Um, I have a few faces that keep popping up into my head who may have said it originally, but I've stole it plenty of times. And I actually did it when we were talking about Michael Moore. Not us, but I was talking to somebody about Michael Moore and one of his documentaries that came out. I am not a Michael Moore fan. Never have been. Always just I watched some of his documentaries. Absolutely, it's stupid not to and say you don't like somebody, but I don't like his politics. I will
Yeah.
just come out and say that. But the line that someone said that I used when we were talking about whether or not he should have a platform, I said, I don't agree with what he says, but I will fight to the death to make sure that he has the ability to say it.
Yeah.
And that's what we as Americans used to hold dear. And I don't feel like we hold that dear anymore.
Yeah, I think we need to. That's a really good point, and it is very well said, and I've heard it many times. I think it's a brilliant standard that makes sure that we know that the right to free speech is a God-given right, and
Absolutely.
much the same as the right to bear arms, and that's again, some people fight that, but I I still haven't heard a good explanation of why it's smart to make more laws to prevent people who don't follow the laws from breaking the laws. It just doesn't really make
That's
sense to
very
me.
well
So
said.
well, it's just so silly, and I haven't heard that articulated correctly ever. Anyway, all that said, but the First Amendment, you're right. It's they have to be able to speak. We have to be able to speak, and you see
Right.
some elements of that kind of falling away. And the fake news stuff that
Yeah.
people talk about all the time, which really is it's if you disagree with what I said, that's fake news
Right.
and that's
Well,
bullshit. That stuff needs to be
yeah.
dealt
And
with. And you cannot say, and this is what makes it difficult with Twitter and with some of the other platforms. But what they have been trying to do and caught trying to do, which is why I love Elon, is because he has opened the books and shown how people have changed what's shown on Twitter based on whether you agree or disagree. And you can make that argument
yeah.
all day long, but it doesn't matter if it's something different than what you say, unless it's I setting up something an ISIS thing or something like that,
Right.
terrorism thing. Aside from stuff like that, they have the right to say what they're going to say, and you have to protect that right
Absolutely.
as a platform, in my opinion.
Well,
You
and
agree with that too.
Rogan actually made a really good point about all of that too when he was talking about Trump being banned from Twitter. And he's like, I don't agree with what he says. I don't like what he says, but he should be able to say it because if you don't allow him to say it, there's no one to argue it. And if
Yeah.
he's all he's doing is going and spouting off whatever he has to say in a vacuum to people who only believe that, then you get these radicalized people who are going to do the things that we don't want them to do. So you might as well give them a platform like Twitter to get out there and say it so people can disagree. And I'm like, I never thought of it that way. I did, but I didn't. It just makes more sense.
Yeah, you're that's very smart to not only posit it that way, but for him to say it that way. And it's not even look, Trump is Trump. I think anybody who understands him, first of all, you got to look and say, a lot of the stuff he said, whether you like it or not, whether you believe it or not, whether you agree with it or not, it came true.
Yeah.
So what it doesn't really, the rest of it doesn't really matter. How he delivers his message, I wouldn't do it that way. I'm not running for president. I'm not a multi-million,
Right.
billion, or whatever he is, who frankly is beyond the grasp of people like George Soros or other, the Cook brothers, Koch brothers. I don't know how you
Hmm.
pronounce it. Though, and that's
That's
right and left, by
com-
the way. But
we need to
even
return to that in a second.
but that's just it. I think uh, you have to let somebody like that talk because he has a following, and if you refuse that, it's beautifully said. You're going to have people, extremists on both sides, who are going to say, "Well, if I can't be heard, then I'm going to put on this black mask and carry firearms and kill people and whatever."
Yep.
So
Yep.
that's the scary part.
Yeah, exactly. So I want to go back to that Cook versus Koch thing because it's interesting. Um, Hold on, I'm writing down another title idea.
Yeah, Nick actually does it
Um,
a lot while I'm speaking. He writes
yeah,
down.
but anyway, so
John's
yeah,
brilliant,
exactly.
and these are some of my John notes.
John's brilliant. Yeah,
Ah,
that's what they all say.
yeah,
Anyway, so the
this is why.
Koch brothers, and that's how I usually hear it is Koch, Koch. Um, So it's interesting you say it that way because I was actually talking to my wife about it. We were watching a documentary and they brought up the Koch brothers. And it's interesting because in Minnesota, when I was growing up, there was a family, big family, with the last name Koch. How did we pronounce it? We pronounced it Cook. It wasn't Koch. It wasn't Coke. It was Cook.
In Wisconsin, it was Cook, and it was spelled exactly that way.
Yeah. But in other parts of the country, it's Koch or Coke. I think it's really interesting how the same spelling can be said so many different ways in so many different parts of our country or the world for that matter.
Yeah, yep.
Maybe I'm the only one that found that interesting, but I did find that interesting.
No, I agree with you, and it is interesting how it. Oh, okay, so you like this? This is a guy I used to work with many, many years ago. He hired me actually when I first got out of the car business, and we were in a training firm that he created. And so I studied Norwegian in college because I love my grandma, and my grandma was Norwegian, and I wanted to be able to speak, blah blah blah. So, and we actually went to Norway, and I was able to, the first lady I spoke to in Norwegian was drunk, and she wanted to ride with us in the tour bus over the mountain into the next town. And it was critically important that I was able to speak Norwegian at that time to her. Anyway, but in studying Norwegian, I kind of got name a recognition of how people said certain names and so on. And this guy that I worked with, his wife's name was spelled Jorunn, and it's a she's Norwegian and a very common Norwegian Nordic name, and it's pronounced urine.
Nice.
And so it was funny because he had changed completely the pronunciation because in the US, urine means something completely different. And I mean, if you
Yeah.
said it the right way, urine, it's Jorun, and is urine. And, but he called her Joe or, I forget how he said her name, but it was like Joran or something like that. And I said, no, that's not how it's pronounced. And she
Yeah.
was really nice, and I liked her. And so when we talk, I could. So Jörn, and she she would laugh because she knew I knew how to say it. But yeah, it's funny how uh, uh, different engagements or whatever will change how you pronounce certain.
Yeah. Well, and that goes with names. I mean, even my last name, Cubic, to me it makes perfect sense. It's literally cubic feet, but instead of two C's, it's two K's. So it's cubic. But a lot of people say cubic or and there are other variations depending on it. But the other one, so my aunt, her name is Jenny. Um, and
Jen.
but in Dutch, because she's Dutch, it's pronounced Jenny. So growing up, and even now I call her Jenny, but everyone thinks it's just kind of a nickname that I call her. Maybe I couldn't pronounce Jenny when I was young and I just call no, it's Jenny is Jenny in Dutch. So I
Yeah,
call her
you
Jenny.
can pronounce it wrong,
But
what you're trying to say.
say that again.
Yeah, I said you still can't pronounce it when you're old, is what they're learning.
Right, exactly. That's exactly it. Yeah. So but it is interesting to me just the different pronunciations and different things of names and words like that. It's really interesting. Okay, I do want to. I know I'm gonna cut this a little bit short today because I do need to go feed my daughter. She's gonna have a good pot pie tonight, guys. Chicken pot pie. Um, anyway, I do want to leave you with this recommendation if you haven't already. I don't know, John, if you have Apple TV. If you do, then this is a good recommendation for you. If you don't, then I'm sorry, you're gonna miss it. Eugene Levy
Ah,
has a new show, and it's called The Reluctant Traveler. I've seen other better traveler shows. I will throw that out there. There are other famous people that are doing travel shows, but this one is unique because he's not playing down the fact that he's got money. So he's staying at like 5-star resorts that are like $6,000 a night. Obviously, he's not paying for it, and he does kind of joke the fact that there are bigger stars that can afford this, and he's not one of them. But he's still staying at these, beautiful resorts, and yeah, so he's got that comedy
yeah,
side to him. So
yeah.
it's entertaining. I've truly enjoyed, and one of them, I don't remember if it was Norway or if it was Finland. Which one has Lapland in it?
Finland.
Is that Finland or is Finland? So he was in Finland, not Norway. I have been watching a few other like Kara and Nate they were in Norway for almost a month.
Yeah, they were.
Um
Yeah.
so yeah, so I've been watching a lot of Nordic stuff lately. Not on purpose. It's just I guess
No,
that's where everyone's going right now.
because I mean, there were several cool things, but they hadn't seen the sun for like a month, and they
Yeah.
both they woke up and saw a sunrise, and they're like, "Whoa!" They're just freaking out because to us, that's exactly what happens north of the Arctic Circle.
Yep. Yep. So anyway, I just another show recommendation. But if you haven't gotten the Kinging It, and which you'll see on Kara and Nate, they're the ones with the Mercedes bus. Kinging It, they were in Norway. They just had to leave because of some laws that they almost broke by accident. But then Kara and Nate are up there. Some really good content coming out of Norway right now. So I would highly recommend it. But if you've got Apple TV, I'd look up the Reluctant Traveler. It was pretty good. I enjoyed it. So did Jen. We both fell asleep to
And
it,
then
but
if you don't
that's
have Apple TV, you can check out the old episodes of Schitt's Creek, which is hilarious with the
absolutely, yeah. Which is
Schitt's.
funny because he never brings that up. He never brings up Schitt's Creek, but he brings up a couple of times American Pie during the
Yes, and
show. That's
awesome
where
too.
most people know him from.
Well, and I love that too. And he's just such a amazing actor. It's just fun to watch him and stuff like that that you wouldn't expect him in, and it lends credibility to to what he's playing too. So anyway, yeah,
Yep,
much appreciated
exactly.
stuff.
Anyway, folks, John, you actually did want to say one more thing about Fast Fridays, right?
I did, yeah, and
You had mentioned that.
I want to make sure, and I'm glad you said that, Nick, because if you haven't yet had the chance to check out Fast Fridays, we're going to try and keep them, 5 minutes or less, maybe 3 minutes, 2 minutes, something like that, and we're going to give you some significant elements for your Fast Friday. And we are going to keep it fast. And Friday, hopefully, by the end of the week, you're going to say, whoa, I need to have something that gets me through the weekend. And that's where Potty Mouse comes in. So check us out. Nick and I are going to take a stab, maybe individually. Maybe we'll surprise you. Maybe we'll be dressed as, I don't know, women. Uh, no, he might, but I won't.
I'm sorry, that's illegal in Tennessee now.
Oh, thank God. Okay, good. Well, I will be traveling to Tennessee to I won't do that either. And well, but we may do it individually and share some stuff that's significant about those particular days of the week. And we hope you'll join us on Fast Fridays with PoddiMouths.
Well said, John. And on that note, folks, head up to poddymouths.com, check out all of our past episodes, including, actually, I don't think I've put Fast Fridays up there yet, but I will eventually, probably 6 months from now. But you could head up to YouTube because YouTube does have the Fast Fridays up there, the two that we've done so far, one official, one introductory. But other than that, you can hear the podcast all other platforms, and we will see you next week. And hopefully you will have as much grace for John struggling with his internet as you did for me when I moved into my new house and struggled with the internet. So, John, you've got at least another 2 or 3 episodes before the mob comes and knocks on your door and tries
And
to
that's
help you with your
I'm looking
internet.
forward to that with the crazy mob coming to the house. And actually,
Mhm.
we'll put the locks just before that happens. But yeah, we'll be looking forward to that, having better internet. And in the meantime, yeah, sorry.
Exactly. Well, it's okay. I forgive you, John. I have faith that you'll get it figured out. In the meantime, I'm about to send you a Instagram post for the Taj Mahal of fifth wheels, and I want to talk about that on the next episode of Potty Mouths if we remember. We might not, but you can always remind us, folks. Have a great week, and we will see you on Tuesday.
See ya.